I want you to get together.
Hello everyone. This video is going to just be me thinking out loud more than anything. And it's coming off the back of, I've noticed there's been a lot of, what's the word? Counter reactions, backlash, rebuttals, or something like that to this growing notion that the Millennial Reign has already happened. So, I'm one of many voices talking about this idea. I certainly did not come up with this theory, this concept of this idea. I am only relaying to audiences in the conspiracy world that this is a theory and this is everything about it that we know so far. And I do believe it's a huge possibility that this is the situation we've found ourselves in. And I'm not willing personally, myself, to discount the information or the possibility just because, just because that doesn't sound like everything I've heard for most of my life, therefore it can't be true type of. I'm not going down that route. See, I never had any preconceived notions prior to this theory of how it should be, or what I wanted it to be, should I say. I'm willing just to take the word for the word, read for what it says, and take it from there. That's kind of always been my idea and philosophy on this. But like I said, there's recently been people and channels cropping up now denouncing the Millennial Reign of Christ theory, and I get the odd comment every now and then where it just flat out says the Millennial Reign has not happened yet, full stop, and they offer nothing else than that one broad definitive statement, done and dusted, full stop. But let's not talk about this anymore. Let's move on, you heathen. That type of attitude. I see a lot more of that, but I also get a lot of people telling me, okay, so they were angry at first, and now they've had time to think about it. Yeah, okay, this is starting to make sense. Thanks for showing me and opening my eyes, type of stuff. And that fair enough. I'm glad I've played some part in helping them open their mind a little bit to alternative eschatologies and perspectives on the truth and how the end times could go down. I'm glad I've made them think those things. But at the same time, it feels odd to me that I've in some way become some kind of figurehead for the end times eschatology of the day. When who am I, really? I what I literally do on my channel is I get people on to share their perspective on how they think it might work or has gone down. When I first heard this theory myself years ago, um, around the Exploring Tartaria channel days and the Conspiracy ROs mentioning this, and just those early voices in the game, I didn't know what to do with it either. I was pretty shocked and appalled at the situation that this could be the case. I wasn't necessarily like upset that it could be the case. I just needed to process it a little bit and try and figure out what this means for us if this is true. So I get where people are coming from with that initial angry reaction. I do. I really do. I'm empathetic towards it. And I think there are some people out there, when they hear me talk, they're kind of confused. They want to attack me personally, as though I'm the one who said, um, this generation will not pass away until these things have come to pass. As though I'm the one who said everyone will see him coming in the clouds, even those who pierced him. And it's kind of you want to attack me personally for just parroting the words of Jesus Christ himself. I mean, you need to stop and pause there and think for a second. I am not saying anything that cannot be biblically grounded, from the words of the big chief himself, the Son of God, Jesus. These are his words. And I suppose I'm going to get in now to these rebuttals and these ideas that I keep getting, these videos that are cropping up. And I'm not here to disparage people or say names. I'm not here to personally attack anybody as an individual about this, because I don't see this as a dividing issue for the body of Christ. I don't think it should be. I think this is an exciting new revelation that we can all read into the Bible and find and help us get closer to a holistic image of what the truth actually is. And I think God wants us to do that. I think He wants us to find the truth. I think, asking ye shall receive. And we've been asking for the truth, and we've been growing our community, and we've been researching and figuring things out. And I think the truth is being revealed. And I think the time we're in is becoming more and more apparent. And again, I don't feel like it's an issue of faith for me necessarily to believe that we are post tribulation and post millennial reign. Now, my blessed hope wasn't hinging on the idea that Jesus Christ would come and destroy all our enemies and I get to reign with him for 1,000 years, I keep my eyes on the eternal kingdom, the things to come afterwards, the kingdom that's not of this world, the new heaven and earth that's to come at the end of all of this. And I realize a lot of these rebuttals do seem to be rooted in pre-conditioned notions about what the eternal kingdom is and what the millennial reign is, which are frankly incorrect, which they've picked up from their leaders, their pastors in their churches, their spiritual authorities, so-called, the men who have told them what the book says. And because most people may have only ever known that message because they have only been a part of a specific church, for most of their lives, they don't know that this could be a true interpretation of what was being said because they were never even told what was said exactly. And it does seem kind of out of left field for some random guy on YouTube to be saying these things. Who am I? Who's this guy? What authority does he have to say these things? And I put my authority in Jesus Christ. I didn't say these things. He did. And this is where people struggle. And this is where the cognitive dissonance starts to kick in. Because we have all this evidence everywhere, don't we? That, well, the early church fathers was said this and did that. Josephus wrote this. The historical record says there's never been a time of peace in 2,000 years. And it's kind of like, look, I don't have all the answers. I'm not saying I've figured it all out and I know every single nuanced facet of information, exactly how it all went down and who these characters are supposed to be and who the two witnesses were, what the mark of the beast was specifically and all these type of things. I don't have all that information necessarily. But what I do have are the words of Jesus Christ, who said, "Those who pierced me will see me coming in the clouds with my kingdom." Those are his words. That's pretty immediate. That's not 2,000 years in the future. That's, perhaps 50 to 60 years in that ballpark figure range after his death and resurrection and ascension. It's not that long. Those people who pierced him, let's say they were young, let's say they were in their 20s, and if they're lucky, they might live to their 80s or 90s at a push. Or let's say the maximum age a human being could live, like 120 years or something like that. It happened in the 1st century. Give or take. It didn't take 2,000 years. And I trust Jesus' words. I trust him when he said that. I trust him when he says, to the apostles, where he's saying, this generation won't pass away until they see these things come to pass. You will not have made it through all the towns of Israel, fleeing persecution before I return. It's a small geographical location. It doesn't take that long to get through those places. I'm pretty certain Jesus was pretty immediate with his language, and he meant soon. When he says shortly come to pass, I believed him. And Joe from JT Follows JC YouTube channel, he puts it quite succinctly in response to these type of people who are saying, no, that can't be the case. It's impossible. No way. It's quite clearly, Millennial Reign hasn't happened yet. And it's kind of like, okay, so the words of Jesus are here. And they then, they bring their rebuttals. Yeah, but early church fathers, these men said this, that man said this man wrote this book, these people made these commentaries, these factions say these things. It's kind of like, look, by this point, like, your lack of faith is not our problem. I have faith that Jesus Christ was being honest when he said, shortly come to pass. I believe him over what any other man has written down or said. We know there's been falsifications of the historical record. We know we can't wholly trust any of it, really. You know, you can't just trust some of it and maybe some and maybe this and that. We don't know. We have to really discern and try and figure out and piece together the timeline and what is and isn't valid and where these sources really come from. One thing we can know for certain is that it seems that the word is everywhere. The Bible survived this somehow. And even that's a good rebuttal. It's like, why would the devil in this season allow the Bible everywhere if everything else was destroyed? And I think it's because it was impossible to get rid of. It was just it was everywhere. It was all over the place. If the Millennial Reign had happened, it seemed like Christ had made sure his written word, the word in written format, was everywhere. And there would have been no chance of Satan getting rid of every single copy. Not a chance. And we know that it seemed to have made it through. And every time we uncover or dig up an old stash in some cave somewhere of these old books, they're identical. The word for word is the same book. It survived. The word survived, you know, and that's how we know, because we can compare what we have today to what we're finding in these ancient 1,000-year-old caves. And yeah, the word's the same. It's the same book. So we do know some things survived. Some histories must be true. But I think everything's been perverted. Like, names have been changed as much as they can, or events have been conflated with other events, and it's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and I cannot figure it out. I'm not a chronologist or an expert on these things by any means. But I still have faith that when Jesus said, "I come quickly, these things must shortly come to pass. Seal not the words in this scroll." Go and tell everybody, John. It's about to happen. I believed him. And that's okay. I don't have any issue with that. But I get a lot of these people who are making these rebuttal videos nowadays, you know, in this late hour, because we've been talking about this for years, who are finally chirping up. They don't, you know, no offense to them. Like, I still love them. They're still a part of the body of Christ as far as I'm concerned. I'm not trying to disparage them as bad people necessarily, but I don't think they really understand what we're saying. I don't think many of them have actually bothered to look into the information we're sharing. It's more of a judging a book by its cover. They're saying the Millennial Reign already happened. Oh, that's ridiculous. I don't even have to look at what they're saying. That's just stupid. And then they move on. You know, it'll be an eternal kingdom that lasts forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You know, it clearly says it in the prophecies of Isaiah. I don't need to look into that. We know that's just stupid because we can't see it right now. You know, we'd be here. You know, we'd know. Oh, people are suffering. You know, there's no way the eternal kingdom's here forever. And it's kind of like, well, actually, that's not what it says. Yes, there is going to be an eternal kingdom where there are no more tears and everything's perfect and wonderful. You know, in the new heaven and earth. That doesn't happen immediately. When Christ returns, tribulation and judgment, which, by the way, had to be cut short for the elect's sake because no flesh would have survived. Once that's over, you know, the resurrected saints get to rule with him for 1,000 years. Those who were martyred for his name get to rule with him for 1,000 years on earth. And the elect who survived tribulation, the very few in number population, they're still on earth. They didn't die. They didn't ascend. They're still human, now living with resurrected bodies, perfected humans through the saints. And possibly angels even came down. Who knows what it was like? Again, I can only speculate. But it says he will rule with an iron rod for 1,000 years. And then it says clearly in Revelation 20, when the 1,000 years has ended. It's a time frame which ends. Okay, and only, I believe that God is outside of our perceptions of time. And yes, sure, to God, 1,000 years is a day. In his eyes, it's nothing. But to us, here on earth, it's 1,000 years. It's a long time. That'd be a day to him, but it's not to us. And we are in a realm where time begins and ends. where we can date stuff. So when it says the 1,000 years ended, I believe 1,000 years on the clock was over on Earth. Satan is let loose for a time, for a little season, a short time, a time of some sort, where he goes and deceives the nations. Those are the words written down. There's a 1,000-year reign of Christ. It ends. Then Satan is let loose to deceive the nations for a time. Okay. Now just listen to those words and understand we could be in that time where Satan was let loose and has deceived all the nations. It doesn't say during that time that New Jerusalem descended from heaven is clearly visible for everyone to see. You have to think contextually. How would Satan deceive all the nations to make war with the camp of saints or New Jerusalem and surround and attack the city, the beloved city? How could Satan do that if it's clearly visible for everyone to see? People wouldn't fall for that. They would look up and go, are you joking? The commander-in-chief, the Son of God, the King Almighty himself is right there in all his glory. And you want me to go and fight him? Are you nuts? Like, no one would buy it. No one would do that. Satan could not gather an army to go to war with such an obvious, visible, glorious, heavenly thing. People just wouldn't do it. The only way he could deceive the nations and gather an army to go make war with the camp of saints is if people don't know that's what it is, or don't even know it exists until it's visible. If people have been deceived and tricked about just exactly what that incredible sight in the heavens actually is. People have to be lied to, which means history has to be changed, which means people have to lose their context. People have to be so deceived they don't even know when they are, never mind where they are. They don't know anything. So when the thing finally becomes visible again, people are deceived enough to believe they can make war with this thing that suddenly came out of nowhere they can't understand or contextualize, to defend themselves out of fear. Fear is the tactic Satan's going to use to make people turn against Jesus and the beloved city and make war with it. It's the only way. Because if people was, if it was an eternal thing that was visibly here forever and ever and ever and ever, well, people wouldn't be deceived and couldn't be deceived, and it just wouldn't work. So there has to be a period of time where whatever this kingdom is, that this wherever the headquarters of Christ was on earth isn't visible. Okay. Then at some point it must become visible again, I'm guessing, for people to be able to make war with it. But you couldn't deceive the nations if it was. It's impossible. You have to just a bit of common sense and just use your brain and think about that for a second. You know, and you can argue with me as much as you want about, yeah, well, you know, it would be too obvious. We would know if Christ was here already. You know, the millennial, there would be historical documents. We would know about it. There's no way it could hide. The millennial reign has not happened yet. You know, it's clear as day. It's still to come. Tribulation's happening. You know, society, the mark of the beast is on the way. The one world government's coming. You know, the beast and the harlot and all the. Do you not see the signs of the times? Do you not see the prophecies being fulfilled? You could say as much as that as you like to me. Jesus Christ said, these things must shortly come to pass in the first century. This generation will not pass away until these things have come to pass. Those who pierced him will see him coming in the glory of his kingdom in the clouds. Those are the words of Jesus. He is not a liar. It's happened. If he has said it has happened already, I believe him. So you can hyper-intellectualize it as much as you want. You can claim authority to your seminary schools, your hermeneutics teachings, your years and years and years of reading the book 20,000 times and knowing more than anybody else. You can puff your chest up and get haughty as much as you want about all the history you know and all the secular history you know and all the apologetics you've been fighting for years to try and somehow appease the secular mind about the truth of the Bible with capitulations to their worldview. You can make any appeal to authority you want. The only authority I care about was Jesus and his words and what he said. I have faith he was telling the truth when he said, These things must surely come to pass. I believe him. It's you're the one with the faith issue here if you're struggling to understand that concept. So all I can do is work backwards from there. Okay, he has told me it's already happened. Where can we find the evidences? And that's what we're doing. In the dark, by candlelight, in a vast cave, a small handful of us are trying to decipher images on the wall by candlelight to piece together the whole picture. We're in the darkness. We're trying our best. We don't have all the answers, but I know what Jesus told us. So we can only work from there. So the eternal kingdom, I believe it's an eternal kingdom. Okay? I don't think Jesus has stopped reigning just because the physical 1,000-year rule is over. He's reigning from heaven, sure. It's possible he's in heaven right now and will not become manifest until the final time, till all the nations have been deceived and convinced to turn against God and the beloved city and the camp of saints, whatever that is. Then he'll probably be made visible again. I don't know. I don't know the nuanced technicalities of how it will suddenly happen. Nobody knows. It's the same principle, as nobody knew the day or hour for the tribulation to begin. And I think we can apply that to this time too. Date setting and predictions are kind of useless because these are concepts far beyond our perceptions and our capabilities to understand. But something will happen. There will be a Gog-Magog war, and Satan will gather an army to go to war with the camp of saints, the beloved city, Jesus Christ himself. And to make that happen, he has to have convinced those nations that it's something else. We've speculated invading aliens from outer space. That would certainly fit the programming most nations have been inundated with for over 100 years, wouldn't it? But let's see. I reserve judgment on that. I don't know. But we're working hard to at least try and work backwards and figure it out. And there are those out there who think we are evil for even considering it. We're bad people for trying to figure out the truth. I mean, come on. Think about that. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. I love him with all my heart and all my soul. Matthew 22:37. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm following. I am trying my best to just understand what it is he's trying to tell us. Focusing on his kingdom, yes. And if that is a past kingdom, physically speaking, then I'm trying to figure it out. I look forward to the new heaven and earth to come after the little season, where everybody's deceived. We could be in that time. It's look around, look how deceived we all are. Look at the evil running rampant. Look at what Satan is doing. We know he's here. We can feel it. We can see it. We know he's corrupting all of us in this little season, and we can see the agendas at play. We can see the future plan. We know about the false alien invasion. We know about the New World Order agenda to establish his reign, his kingdom on Earth, after the fact. Basically squatting on what was left behind when Jesus left, no doubt. Repurposing things for his own agenda, for his own will. Rewriting history so he was the victor. Celebrating his release. His independence. It's funny, I'm laughing because it's kind of, it all just seems so obvious when you look at it from this new perspective. Okay. And it makes sense why all of these end time signs we've been decoding for ages in the truth culture seem so contrived. So obviously just scripted. Just because they're trying to convince us that's the time we're in. But as soon as you realize there's a little season where Satan rules after the Millennial Reign, just before the new heaven and earth, you realize, yes, we can be in that time. Of course we can. Why are we so special that we get to avoid that? Why couldn't we be those people? Why couldn't we? Of course we can. Like, there's nothing stopping us from being those people. And the new heaven and earth is where there will be the time where there's no more death, no more tears, where it'll be perfection. It'll be heaven on earth. It'll be a brand new, renewed earth. Everything will be perfect from there, yes. But you look around, that is not where we are now, is it? And a lot of these people make these rebuttals and want to claim we're making that claim. Oh, and this is obviously not happened yet because everything's still evil. It's kind of like, well, are you just ignoring the little season passage in Revelation then? Do you think that just doesn't happen? Then they say, oh, no, well, that's literally just like, a few months. That was just a couple of years, that was a very short period and it's over and done with. It's a side note. It's a footnote in history. It's over with, and that happens during a time when Christ is clearly visible to everybody. It's kind of, well, that's not what it says, is it? It doesn't say that. You're layering on top of it your own desires and wishes and needs because you want to be the one that was there during the 1,000-year reign, perhaps. Or in some, because you've been convinced tribulation is upon us and you fear the coming destruction and pain and misery that will come along with the tribulation. That fear has led you to latch onto maybe some kind of relatively modern theology of rapture, about being taken away from all that event and not having to deal with it, maybe because you're so wrapped up in this end times doomsday scenario. It's hard for you to be taken out of that context because you're living in hyper fear mode and you're not going to humor these ideas, which should be freeing because I'm telling you right now, it's already happened. We're living in a scarier time, I would say, than tribulation. But if you look at the evidences and believe it and understand it, you can have more faith than ever and certainly have no fear because Jesus kept his promise. He was here. He ruled. He walked the earth. And what's coming next is the final renewal, the new heaven and earth, the final judgment. You getting what you want is finally almost over. No more tears. Again, like I said at the start, this is just me thinking out loud here because there is this growing movement now of anti-millennial reign stuff, and people are using my name and my channel out there to say, like, have you seen Paul talking on Understanding Conspiracy about the millennial reign? To like big channels out there are huge proponents of, let's say, the end time tribulation theology, that we're living through the end times and the tribulation. But they're using my name and channel personally to these people saying, look at what he's saying, and then they give their response, which is, like I said, usually quite passive. And, oh, I've heard about that. That's just ridiculous. Quite obviously it's not happened yet because everything would be perfect and we're not there yet, so it's just stupid to say that. Now, let's focus more on the end times again and let's look at, I've explained it clearly in this video that they're just full of it. So let's just move on. And yeah, and then I get other ones which are attacking me personally and they should have come to me first, and talk to me about it. I think they have this image in my mind of what I am, like I'm some evil deceiver out there trying to lead people astray. And it's kind of like, if you know who I am, if you followed me for long enough, you would know I'm just an incredibly accessible and open person. Like, if you want to talk to me, you can talk to me. Anyone on the Telegram group knows that. I am extremely accessible. It's not difficult to get in touch with me to have a conversation about these things. But some people don't want to have conversations necessarily. They just want to outright attack. Condemnation before investigation, shall we say. And it's a shame. It's a shame because, like I said, I don't claim to have all the answers. I'm not saying I'm some kind of pastor. I don't tell people I have a ministry. I'm nothing like that. I'm just a guy with thoughts and ideas, and I want to share them with people and bounce ideas off other people to create a better holistic picture. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to better understand Scripture. I'm trying to better understand our Savior. I'm trying to better understand the conspiracy. That's all I'm trying to do. And I do that by getting people on my channel who have their own perspective, have their own channels out there talking about this topic, who have their own basis for understanding it, who have their own viewpoint. and all opinions and spins and theorizing and timelines. And some of the guests I have on my channel might contradict each other, but I'm not looking for someone to have all the answers. I feel like everybody might have a piece of the puzzle, and you take what's good and you take what's bad, and I don't feel like I should be made to feel guilty for doing that. But it seems like some people are willing to try and do that and use it against me in some way. But I'm encouraged by the people who comment who tell me that what I'm doing is working. And I'm not really discouraged because there's some people out there who don't like that I say these things or that I'm even thinking about these things. I just think it's childish and stupid for them to have that attitude. And again, I'm not looking to attack anybody personally. Like, I'm not going to name names and go out there and say, go over there and attack their channel. Those people are crazy. I'm not interested in anything like that. If you disagree with me. That's fine. I don't think it has to get vitriolic. I don't think there's a need for that. I think some people do see it as a salvation issue, like a serious problem, and I think some people are so wrapped up in their eschatology that it's kind of, for somebody to say it otherwise is blasphemy in their eyes, and it's kind of, grow up. That's all I can say to that. People are allowed to think. God did not create us to be mindless drones who go along with the crowd. God is a creator. He is an artist. We are made in his image. We're allowed to be creative and think. Don't let anyone take that away from you. Okay? It's herd mentality within the church that has led to this mess, to be honest. That's led to complacency, to unquestioning further towards men. Scribes and Pharisees of the modern day, let's call them. Okay, I probably said enough. I'm going to leave that there. Again, just some random thoughts on this topic. Things I've noticed. Because, my channel's an odd channel. I get it. I've got my Nephilim clown stuff. The book's just been published. I'm excited about that. And we're going to be creating more content around that subject matter soon, obviously, to get the book out there and the information. And there's always going to be more stuff I'm going to share, which I'm discovering along the way. But then I also have on the sidelines, I have this topic too, which I'll be talking about as well. And I'm not a one-trick pony. I like to talk about many things. Then on top of that, there's the spiritual warfare stuff, and then there's all the other conspiracies that surround all of these things as well. But there's numerous topics I like to discuss on this channel, and this is just one of them. But those channels out there who only focus on the one thing, which is end times prophecy, yeah, they're going to have an issue with me. I can see it. I understand. I just hope they also understand that I didn't just come to this worldview or opinion overnight one day on a whim. I didn't just roll with it straight away. It took me years to think about this thoroughly and to have the confidence to discuss it on my channel. And even now, I still don't say I know it all. I don't feel like that's a virtue or a value many of those people who are attacking this idea can say. I'm not seeing much of it. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.
I want you to get together